The day my parents asked me to destroy my life to save my brothers, I realized I wasn't their daughter. I was their spare part. And they were willing to throw me in the trash. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let me know where you're listening from in the comments. My name is Cyrus Stone. My family owns Stone and Son Construction. The son is my brother Cyrus. I'm just the daughter. The invisible one. For 7 years, I've been the one who actually runs things. I'm in the office at 5 a.m. I handle the permits, the scheduling, the payroll, the problems. Cyrus? He's the vice president of business development. That means he plays golf with clients, takes 3-hour lunches, and puts his name on all my work. My parents adore him. He's the golden child. The future. I'm just the reliable one. Last year, Cyrus landed our biggest project ever, the Azure, a luxury waterfront condo building. It was his big triumph. He strutted around like a king. From the start, I saw problems. My specs called for a specific, expensive waterproofing sealant for the foundation. It was non-negotiable. The building was right on the water. Cyrus looked at the cost and laughed. "Cyrus, you're so uptight. I found a supplier with the same stuff for half the price. We're using that." "It's not the same stuff, Cyrus," I argued, showing him the data. "It's not rated for this environment. It will fail." He waved me off. "You worry too much." I signed the order. "It's handled." He'd already used his authority to buy the cheap sealant. My warnings were ignored. For months, I watched as they used the wrong material. I documented everything. The purchase orders with his signature. My emailed warnings. I kept a private file, a knot of dread growing in my stomach. Then, 2 weeks ago, the big storm hit. The kind that floods the streets. I got the call at 3 a.m. The project foreman, his voice tight with panic. "Cyrus, it's the Azure. The basement. It's not holding. It's like a waterfall in there. The foundation walls are weeping bad." I drove there in the pouring rain. It was worse than I imagined. The lower levels were a flooded, muddy ruin. The cheap sealant had completely failed. Water had saturated everything. The damage was in the millions. The client, a huge corporation, was already screaming. The lawsuit hit yesterday. It's massive. Negligence. Fraud. They're saying we knowingly used defective materials. The amount they're suing for could break our company. This morning, my parents called a panic meeting in our fancy office. My mother looked pale. My father was silent. Cyrus was sweating. "Cyrus," my father began, "we need to understand what happened. You were overseeing the project details." I was ready. This was my moment. The moment they'd finally see Cyrus for what he was. I opened my folder and laid the papers on the table. I tried to stop it. "Here are the purchase orders for the wrong sealant, signed by Cyrus." I slid them toward my parents. "Here are my emails warning him it would fail." He overrode me. This is his negligence. Pure and simple. I waited for the outrage. For them to finally turn on him. They didn't. My mother picked up the papers, glanced at them, and set them down without a word. My father looked from the damning signatures to Cyrus's terrified face, then back to me. His expression wasn't anger. It was calculation. He cleared his throat. "This is a family matter. We need to discuss the path forward. In private." He looked pointedly at me and my mother. "Cyrus, wait outside." Cyrus scurried out like a relieved child. My heart started to pound. In private? Why wasn't Cyrus part of this private talk about his mistake? My father waited for the door to close. The room felt cold. "Cyrus," my mother said, her voice soft but urgent. "The lawsuit names the company. But the real damage is to our name. Stone and Son. If Cyrus is tied to fraud, his career is over. Our legacy is finished." My father leaned forward. "You're the operational manager. The paperwork goes through you. If you were to sign a statement saying you made a tragic error in material verification, that you were overworked, you missed it, we could settle. We protect the family. We protect Cyrus." I stared at them. The words didn't make sense. "You want me to confess? To take the blame?" "For the family," my mother pleaded. "You're strong, Cyrus. You can survive this." "He can't. The business is Stone and Son. It has to survive." For him. The air left the room. The 7 years of early mornings, the solved problems, the loyalty, it all meant nothing. I wasn't their daughter. I was a tool. And now, they needed a tool they could break to polish their favorite son. I looked at their expectant faces, waiting for me to agree to my own ruin. The foundation of my life cracked just like the walls of the Azure. I knew my answer. But first, I had to get out of that room. I left my parents' office without saying a word. I walked through the fancy building, past the desks of employees who had no idea their bosses just asked me to commit career suicide. I made it to my car before I fell apart. I didn't cry. I shook. A full-body tremor of pure, white-hot rage. They didn't just favor Cyrus. They were willing to bury me alive to keep his reputation clean. The family name only mattered when it was attached to him. The shock lasted an hour. Then it burned away, leaving something cold and sharp behind. If they wanted a war, I would give them one. But I would fight with facts, not feelings. My first move was to secure every piece of proof. I went back to my office and copied my entire private file, Cyrus's purchase orders, my warning emails, onto a secure flash drive. That was just the start. I needed the why. I remembered the supplier. A company we'd never used before. I called an old friend from business school who worked in materials compliance. Can you quietly check if this vendor is even certified to sell the product they gave us? I asked, my voice steady. The answer came back fast. Cyrus, that vendor's license lapsed 2 years ago. And the product lot number you gave me? It's a cheap industrial-grade sealant. It was never rated for residential foundation work. Someone got fake certificates. Fake certificates. That moved this from negligence to fraud. I needed Cyrus's communication. I still had the admin password for the company server. I told myself I was doing a security backup. I accessed Cyrus's email. It was a treasure chest of stupidity and greed. I found the chain with the supplier. They weren't subtle. Supplier, the product you requested doesn't meet the specs. We have a cheaper alternative that looks similar. Cyrus, send the cheaper one with paperwork that matches the specs. No one will check. There it was. In writing. Knowing intentional fraud. But there was more. I found other emails about consulting fees and bonus commissions being paid to a shell company. I followed the money. With a little more digging through financial records I managed, I found it. For the last 3 years, Cyrus had been siphoning off small percentages from big project budgets into a private account. He was stealing from the company. He wasn't just incompetent. He was a thief. And my parents wanted me to take the fall for him. The final piece was the confrontation. My father called me back to his office 2 days later. My mother was there. Cyrus was not. Have you considered our proposal? My father asked, like he was asking about a project timeline. No, I said, my voice flat. I won't sign it. It's a lie. Their sympathy vanished. My mother's face hardened. Cyrus, don't be difficult. This is for the good of everyone. If you don't do this, you leave us no choice. What choice? I asked. What will you do? Fire me? Disinherit you, my father stated coldly. You will be removed from the company, from the family trust, from everything. You'll have nothing. You'll never work in this town again. We'll make sure of it. Hearing the threat out loud was like a bucket of ice water. It clarified everything. They weren't bluffing. To them, I was disposable. I stood up. Then I guess I have nothing left to lose. I walked out, not waiting for a reply. I drove straight to a quiet coffee shop across town. I pulled out a brand new, prepaid phone. I had one more call to make. I dialed the number for the lead lawyer representing the client suing us. When his assistant answered, I said, "Tell Mr. Vance that an employee of Stone and Son has information about fraudulent activity on the Azure project. I'm willing to talk under a whistleblower agreement." He called back 20 minutes later. We met at a law library. I showed him copies of everything, Cyrus's emails ordering the wrong product, the proof of fake certifications, the financial transfers of him stealing money. Mr. Vance was a serious man. He looked at the evidence, then at me. This is compelling. You understand, if you provide this officially, there's no going back. I understand, I said. I want immunity for myself. And I want the truth to come out. He agreed to draw up the papers. I was now a protected whistleblower. My family could no longer legally touch me. That night, I put every single document, the emails, the financials, the fake certificates, and even a recording of my parents threatening to disinherit me onto one encrypted drive. I wrote a simple, factual letter explaining the fraud and the cover-up attempt. My plan was set. My parents had given me a last chance family meeting for tomorrow. They thought it was their final pressure point. They had no idea it was my finish line. I had the truth in my pocket. And as soon as I walked out of that meeting, I would send it to every news outlet in the city and a copy to every major client on our roster. The loyal daughter was gone. Now I was the witness. And I was ready to testify. The final family meeting was in my father's office. The same room where they asked me to destroy my life. This time, I wasn't nervous. I was ready. My parents sat behind the big desk. Cyrus was there, leaning against the wall with his usual arrogant smile. He thought he'd won. My father spoke first. "Eris, this is your last chance to be part of this family. Sign the confession. Take responsibility for the mistake. We will support you through the settlement." He slid a single piece of paper toward me. The formal confession. I looked at it. Then I looked at them. "I brought my own papers," I said quietly. I opened my bag and placed 3 things on the desk. First, the printed email chain. I pointed to Cyrus's line, "Send the cheaper one with paperwork that matches the specs. No one will check." "This is fraud," I said. "This proves he knowingly ordered the wrong materials and falsified the records." Cyrus's smile vanished. "Those are private." "Second," I said, ignoring him and placing down the bank transfer records. "For 3 years, Cyrus has been stealing money from project accounts, siphoning it into his own private company. He's not just negligent. He's a thief." My father snatched the papers, his face turning red as he saw the proof. "Third," I said, and I hit play on my phone. The recording from our last meeting filled the room. My mother's voice, cold and clear, "If you don't do this, you leave us no choice. Disinherit you. You will have nothing." My mother put a hand over her mouth. "This isn't a family," I said, my voice steady. "This is a cult of one. And you asked me to be his sacrifice." "I'm not sacrificing anything." My father was furious. "You recorded us? You little traitor." "No," I corrected him. "The traitors are the people who asked their loyal daughter to go to jail for their criminal son. The whistleblower agreement I signed yesterday with the plaintiff's lawyers says I'm the only honest one here." The word whistleblower hit the room like a bomb. Cyrus paled. He knew what that meant. "You did what?" my father roared, standing up. "I told the truth," I said, standing up to face him. "All of it. The emails, the theft, the fake certificates, and your attempt to cover it up. I just sent every document to the business news channel and a copy to every one of our major clients. By tonight, everyone will know that Stone and Son is built on fraud and lies. And they'll know who really did it." I turned and walked to the door. I looked back one last time at the 3 of them, frozen in their crumbling world. "You wanted to save the family name," I said. "But you never cared about the family. Just the name. Now you have neither." I walked out and didn't look back. The story broke that evening. Stone and Son heir implicated in massive fraud. The news showed Cyrus's emails and the financial records. It also mentioned the parents' attempt to pressure another employee, me, to take the blame. The lawsuit was settled quickly after that. The client took almost everything. The company was ruined. Cyrus faced separate charges for fraud and embezzlement. I didn't stay for the fallout. Using the whistleblower protection, I started my own small construction consulting firm. My first client was the very company that sued Stone and Son. They hired me because they said I was the only person in that family with integrity. A year later, my one-woman firm is busy and respected. I work honest hours for honest pay. My office is small, but the foundation is solid. I heard through the grapevine that my parents had to sell everything. They live in a small apartment now. Cyrus is fighting his legal battles. They're a story people tell about how greed and favoritism can destroy everything. I don't feel happy about their suffering. I feel free. They wanted me to carry the weight of their lies. I chose to build my own truth instead. The best revenge isn't getting even. It's getting ahead. It's building a good life with your own two hands and letting your success be the final answer to everyone who underestimated you. Thanks for listening to the end of my story. If you've ever been overlooked, used, or asked to shrink yourself to make someone else look bigger, remember this: your integrity is your greatest asset. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories about turning betrayal into your own blueprints for success.